You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
A lot can change in 24 hours. I guess technically 24 hours ago, we did not know of the tragic passing of NASCAR legend Kyle Busch, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion and winner of 234 races over the truck O'Reilly now, but previously Busch and Xfinity series, as well as the Cup Series. And yet, if you look back on it 23 hours and 20 minutes ago, 23 minutes ago, because we learned of it at 5:40 while we were chatting with Michael Massey of FrenchStretch.com. It still feels just surreal about the passing of Kyle Busch. Like, there are so many thoughts that have dawned on me, and I now get it. Like, for my parents, like when someone would pass away and you're younger, it doesn't hit you the same. But as you get older, you get confronted with your own mortality. And as you get older, in addition to that, you start to see just more people passing away. And there are so many things about this. And we're not going to get into the cheesy Fast Five at Five-ish sound bites. We will do that momentarily for other announcements and things that have transpired in the world of sports. But, for example, talking to my mom this morning, and blessed to be able to speak with both my parents today. They're almost twice as old as Kyle Busch. Not to date them and be mean, but we're talking 75 and 70. Kyle Busch passed away at the age of 41. That's a year older than I am. Like, that part. Kyle Busch passed away, and he was almost half the age of Rick Hendrick, for whom he drove, and Richard Childress, who sadly has the dubious distinction of having to bury two of the legends who passed away prematurely in NASCAR, and Dale Earnhardt Sr., who drove for Childress in the black number 3 at Daytona when the tragedy occurred February 18, 2001. And then Kyle Busch passing away yesterday. And then Joe Gibbs also employed Kyle Busch. That's where he had most of his success. Joe Gibbs is like 85 years old. He's over twice as old as Kyle Busch and has outlasted him. And, I mean, again, looking at tragedies, Joe Gibbs lost his son, J.D. Gibbs, lost his other son, Coy Gibbs. It's, part of what's complicated that operation in terms of legacy from a business standpoint. But there are so many things now that just jump out about something like this. And you start to look at it, and it dawns on you, and you reflect so much differently than before. Another thought that kind of hit me today, and not to wish certainly any ill will on anybody, but I'll use some local analogies and I'll use some other national analogies. Frank Beamer, he's still around. Thank God he is, but he's had his health scares. He's also retired. I saw him at the South Carolina Virginia Tech opener down in Atlanta this past Labor Day weekend, and you could tell that he has aged more. Part of it's probably the stress of college coaching. Part of it is obviously the health challenges that, helped nudge him into retirement, and then he's still battled through since then. If you got the note, it would be tragic. He still would have a Hall of Fame, highly impactful legacy in Virginia, certainly Virginia Tech, and college sports. But there wouldn't be the shock factor in the sense of, when you get to that age, there is a shock that does wear off about something like this. If you look at anybody else in that particular category, you can rattle off plenty of other figures. But the youthful nature of Kyle Busch, and when Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed away, it's part of the shock that goes in. And NASCAR is so different from other sports entities and operations. It's a team sport, but yet people resonate with individuals as much as anything. I get it. You've got your cheesy redneck peeing on the Chevrolet logo, Ford logo, Toyota logo, whatever camp that's out there. And you got people that are diehard Joe Gibbs, diehard Hendrick, any other element. And when I say diehard, please, I don't mean that insensitive. It's just the first word that comes to mind or first phrase. But people resonate with drivers. They connect with them on a different level. And part of the fandom, I would say, for the majority of NASCAR fans is a level of relatability that you feel to a particular driver, or there's a personality trait of a driver that causes you to gravitate toward that particular individual. Jeff Gordon versus Dale Earnhardt. The personality traits were stark, and people were fans of both. But at the end of the day, as much as you may pee on the 24 or pee on the 3 because you're the fan of the other, or you may detest Kyle Busch because you like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Busch knocked him out of the way to win at Richmond a couple of decades ago. Guess what? At the end of the day, NASCAR has a uniquely familial element to it. You got 43 Cup Series drivers. It's the same people again and again for pretty much the entire calendar year. You're looking at 9 months or so out of the year. 36 of the 52, 38 really if you count the Clash at the beginning of the year and if you count the All-Star race as well. 38. Maybe we could throw in 39 to 40 depending on bye weeks. Essentially, 75% of your life is spent around the same people again and again. And fans who follow the sport. It's not the 10 million that watched the Daytona 500 years ago. It's a third of that now. But there still is a level of connectivity to the sport. And this isn't all that NASCAR is known for. Tragedies happen in other sports and with people passing away at too young of an age. But when it comes to NASCAR, it just does hit home so much differently. I thought Mike Neff did a great job talking about it today on the morning warm-up. And by the way, a big round of applause and a big shout out, 100 minutes of content last night from our guy, Trey Lyle. Shout to him. Today was the final edition of the morning warm-up with Ty and Trey. They've done a phenomenal job, but they are going on to different ventures in their life. It's what happens when you get into serious relationships. Priorities change. We get it. No ill will at all. Trey's in the building, in fact, today, and Ty and Trey and TJ are all welcome back, and all of them have been involved in weddings or are about to be, or wink, wink, nudge, nudge, might be in the near future. Prayers for Kaya and Ty in that regard, because they are strong, happy, healthy, and well, and we love them too. But you look at that. That was a phenomenal broadcast last night. The ability for Trey to interweave with so many different guests. That might have been the best bit of content that I've heard of Trey, and he's done a lot of really good content. From the Foul Ball Area podcast, he's the regular host of Bringing the Heat, the morning warm-up. He tipped his cap to us, but if you're watching at VTR in Sports and Fastlane, Ed Lane, we're going to tip it to him. I can't imagine. I haven't said this, by the way. Trey, come over to the microphone for a second today. Because, I struggled to sleep last night because of, you just think about Kyle Busch. You still keep looking around, even today. And they've got the graphics up at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indy 500, Charlotte for the Coke 600 of Kyle Busch.
They painted an 8 at Charlotte. I don't know if you've seen that yet. And
it just doesn't even seem real. And it's 24 hours later.
I mean, we're not even going to see the 8 on the track. And the crazy this weekend, the RCRs decided to give that number to Brexton Busch. Obviously, they're unfortunately very familiar with this kind of situation. Last night I was comparing it to the death of Dale Earnhardt and the death of another famous number 8, Kobe Bryant. Those are the two off the top of my head that I feel are most relevant to this. And this weekend, it's going to be very surreal not seeing Kyle Busch at the racetrack.
Dude, it's going to be weird watching a race
tonight. Theoretically speaking, the crazy part is Kyle Busch, in his postmortem, theoretically has won a pole already because Corey Day, who's going to fill in for him in the 7 tonight in the truck race, won the pole because of because it rained out. So they used the algorithm that they have, the metric. And since Kyle Busch won at Dover 1 week ago, the 7 is on the pole. So Kyle Busch,
technically is on the pole.
Won the pole for Spire Motorsports tonight in the NASCAR Crash and Truck Series race.
NASCAR has a lot of war. By the way, Trey, just take a bow. You guys did fantastic. How did you hold, like, seriously, how'd you hold it together this morning? You have to be emotionally drained over the last 24 hours.
Caffeine. Shout out to, he's never was sponsored by Red Bull, so I can't say that, but caffeine. Whether it was coffee or just caffeine. That's the best way I can describe it.
Dude, you did a phenomenal job. I genuinely mean that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I listened this morning to the Front Stretch tribute podcast for Kyle Busch. It was fantastic. I've read the articles from Dalton Hopkins, who was he in the car with Michael Massey when we broke it to Massey?
Yeah. No.
I
think Massey was on his way to pick up Dalton, and then when Dalton was on the air with me, they were in the car together.
Okay, gotcha. I was trying to put two and two together, but I mean, I mean, look, Massey said I handled it fine. I have no idea. Like I've never had to announce that. Like Tony Bennett, when he retired abruptly,
that was
is the closest.
Yeah,
that's the closest I can think of,
but
and it's totally different.
That didn't happen live. That happened
about 40 minutes before the show, not 40 minutes into the show.
Yeah, it would happen right before we went on the air.
It was like 4:20 on that Thursday in late October of 2024 for Tony Bennett when he retired. And again, it's different. Like everyone could have seen that coming. Like, and not that you knew it was going to happen right before the start of the season, but again, the shock factor is more that it happened and oh my goodness, when it happened. But like knowing what we know now, it's not. Like Kyle Busch passing away, I think you hit the nail on the head this morning. It doesn't have the same magnification, even in his sport, as far as connectivity of the way Kobe Bryant did in basketball. Because there are a generation of people that grew up idolizing different drivers, whereas in basketball, let's be real, the majority of the NBA right now that's in the league grew up idolizing two players. LeBron, as much as I make fun of him, but LeBron, and they grew up idolizing Kobe. Whereas in NASCAR, it's spread out differently. And just from a pop culture relevance, LeBron and Kobe resonated on a large level. And look, I love NASCAR, but I can resonate to that.
Yeah, they were both, the crazy part is they were both 41. They both had young children. They both were the number 8 at some point in their career. I do think like that it's a little bit of both. And they also were this kind of, while they're probably not the best the best in their sport of all time, they're one of, but they're these unique personalities that maybe are solely defined. Like Kobe Bryant, while argued is the closest thing to Michael Jordan, is kind of this unique personality in the Black Mamba. Kyle Busch is the same way. I mean, I played a couple of clips this morning, and I think it's a fair comparison because it's also the suddenness of what happened, the out of nowhereness of the, like, you can't believe the news. So it's just, I do think it's a little mixture. Like the only two comparisons I could make were, unfortunately, with Richard Childress Racing and Dale Earnhardt, and then, but that was an on-track incident, and then the death of Kobe Bryant because of like the larger, like there are people out, and Tom Bowles mentioned this last night. Like Kyle Busch was one of the few people that you could go outside of the NASCAR bubble and they would know who he is.
The only other one I could think of, if it happened, would be Denny Hamlin. Like, in terms of the impact for multiple generations, fans outside the sport know about them. They resonate on a different level. Bubba Wallace has, and I love Bubba Wallace, and he's done a lot of good for NASCAR. I know there's a chunk of NASCAR that, let's be real, can't stand him because he's a disruptor and he's the black guy that succeeded, but he's a really good driver. But he's not on the same level as Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. Busch doesn't have as many wins as Hamlin does, but he's got the 2 championships. So I think you can compare them similarly. But it's just, there is still a lot can change in a 24-hour time frame, but yet the shock, I don't think has changed at all. And it just feels so surreal that it happens. And my mom reminded me today when we were talking about it, like, you never know when your time's up and when it's going to be called. And it just makes these things challenging. Yes, last night I didn't really have dinner because one of my 7-year-olds wanted to just go up and read and go to bed that way. And, it's not always the best thing to do every night, but, on a night like that, you relish being around your family. And it's so eerie because 24 hours ago, we knew that Kyle Busch wasn't going to race this weekend. Michael Massey pointed out that, maybe it was more severe than let on because of the family putting the announcement out there, and Kyle did not put it out himself on social media. And in hindsight, that's the case. But I mean, think of it this way as well. A week ago at this time, Kyle Busch was winning and would go on to win the Truck Series race in Dover, and now he's no longer with us. It is, life comes at you fast, it comes at you hard, and so much, yet so little can change in a short amount of time, just depending on what transpires. There is no artful way to transition from that. There are other developments that have happened in the world of sports over the last 24 to 48 hours. A lot of them shelved, justifiably so, by the tragic news of Kyle Busch passing away. But we get to some of those right now in...
It's time for Fast Five at Five-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
So this is one that kind of slipped under the radar, but it's worth mentioning. The Liberty Flames were oh so close to making it further in the NCAA championships and playing at the NCAA Golf Championships. They lost in a playoff in the Corvallis Regional to San Diego State, I believe is who beat them. But Michael Louisiana will still compete as an individual. They were a loaded team. It just stings for Liberty to have a season fall short that way. They have elevated themselves in golf. They've had a better year in baseball. More on that in just a moment than they've had in prior years. Softball was down this year, but historically they've been good. Indoor track and field and outdoor track and field have been fantastic. The outdoor track and field programs for Liberty successful with both of those. And the men, we'll get to that in
number 4.
The men's and women's squads were crowned Conference USA outdoor track and field champions about a week ago this past Saturday night following the competition in Murfreesboro. And it's not just that. I think you're also seeing the ability for Liberty to dominate Conference USA. They are not financially in the same stratosphere as your biggest programs in college athletics. But this is the example of just in every level, it seems. From Power Conference, the Power 2, Big Ten and SEC, down to the Big 12 and the ACC. A gap from that to everybody else, but even a gap in some of these conferences. Because Liberty head and shoulders above everybody else when it comes to track and field. 161 points, the Lady Flames, easily over Kennesaw State. Beat them by 40 points in track and field. That's a lot. That means you have to have success, not just winning, but other performers that perform top 2, top 3 regularly to start building those points across all disciplines. And then the men's side, no joke, this was a 97-point advantage. They beat Kennesaw State, who came in second in outdoor track and field for the men, 244 to 147. They have a phenomenal sprinting program, a phenomenal distance program. They have short and long distance running. They've got other disciplines as well in track and field that have been successful and clearly deserve a high level of credit for the way that they have performed. Speaking more of the Liberty Flames in
number 3.
Liberty knocked off Louisiana Tech earlier today, 6-zip. And what's so impressive is Ben Blair had the big game in the first game of the Conference USA tournament baseball yesterday, going 6+ innings of shutout ball for Liberty. But today, the 6-0 win was a collaborative team effort. They punched their ticket to the championship matchup where they will take on, I believe it's Jacksonville State. We can get that in just a moment. But 40th win of the season. I haven't seen the other game, obviously, today. But Liberty, 40th win of the season. That's the first time since 2019 and the 6th time in program history. But the depth of the way they were able to win today was really the interesting part. Jake Potts earned his 3rd win of the season, but he only went 3 1/3, meaning they really had to collaborate on a team pitching shutout. I am curious, when you combine the amount of arms used today and Ben Blair used the other day, where Liberty will be in terms of arms in the championship game tomorrow. But if you can get the offensive production as well to complement that, and that's what the Flames, I'd say they're going to need some of that, because I think it's reasonable to question where their pitching is going to be. But 6 of the runs, they were all scored by home runs. Josh Campos had a 3-run homer. Nick Barone had a home run as well and a double. And Jake Potts, obviously, as we mentioned, with his 3rd win of the season. But Liberty's going to need more of that to win the championship tomorrow. More on the Flames in a bit. But
number 2,
Virginia football announcing that it will play a non-conference matchup against JMU. Specific date in 2028 to be determined. Do you have an update on that, by the way, JJ? Turn it on. Just pod your mic on.
Yeah, Jacksonville State beat Western Kentucky
Oh,
12-11.
12-11.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. If I'm Liberty, oddly enough, I might actually want that. We're going to go backwards before we go forward. We'll get the number 2 in a moment. But
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
back to,
Number 3.
and that topic being Liberty baseball. If I'm a Flames fan, I would rather face a team coming off of a 12-11 win because it means more arms are being used. It's also hard to replicate that type of offensive outburst multiple games in a row. And it puts them on par with Liberty, who also is really going to be cobbling together their arms against number 1 seed Jacksonville State. Not to mention the fact that you get Liberty's the 2 seed, Jack State's the 1. And if they're playing in a fairly close contest, then you have to like your chances of that not being too much of a resume killer when it comes to Conference USA teams trying to get multiple ones into the NCAA baseball tournament. More on that number 1. But
Number 2.
back to the other announcement, Virginia football, by the way.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
Virginia will play JMU. I tip my cap to Virginia for playing JMU in 2028 in football. I will also say this. I think it's less risky for a Tech or a Virginia to play a JMU or Liberty than it's been in prior years. Because for every year like Liberty had when they made the Fiesta Bowl or JMU when they made the college football playoff, their more realistic scenario is they're going to continue to lose high-end talent year over year. And if you're a stable program that is generally accruing more of that talent, even though they may not all come in and contribute right away, you should be a stronger program and be able to handle those type of opponents, especially at home. I wish Tech played JMU this year, although I get it, rather keeping VMI on the schedule. But I'd tip my cap to Virginia for adding JMU. And I think JMU and Liberty can be good, group of 5 programs. It's just the gap between that and the ACC is wider than it's ever been. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
more on Virginia Tech baseball with Evan Hughes in just a moment here in the fast lane, as we'll give him a shout around 5:30. But I thought Virginia Tech baseball, while a disappointing 10-4 loss to Carolina in a game you heard earlier today on the VTR and Sports app with the aforementioned and soon to be heard from Evan Hughes, they acquitted themselves reasonably well. They were down 4-0 to Notre Dame on Wednesday. The Hokies fought back, won that game in a shootout. And again, the arms kind of tiring out over the course of the game. It sure looked like that. But really, 6-4 was the score in the bottom of the 8th inning. And then Carolina put it away with a 4 spot there. The 7th run of that game was the one that, to me, broke the camel's back. I got to see the replay of it. And again, forgive me for not knowing the names of the Carolina players, but the base runner who ended up scoring on that, it was a bang-bang play where the ball was driven and it bounced off the top of the wall. And the right field of Virginia Tech threw it in, and the play to the plate was a smidge late, but if a catcher for Virginia Tech was alert enough, he could have applied the tag because the Carolina runner did not actually touch home plate. But the Carolina runner was quicker to realize that happened than Virginia Tech's catcher was to just do the thorough thing of tagging him. And that ultimately made it a 7-4 game. And I thought at that point, that's when you went from, okay, I could find a way to get 2 runs in the 9th inning, but 3 or more was going to be an uphill climb. And that ended up proving to be the difference. Am I right or am I wrong? I love getting vindicated or vilified as well. Evan Hughes may do one or the other. So we'll find out what he does when we return here in the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, one amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. McDonald's.com.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time to share it and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Summer, hot, steamy. 3 ingredients for an overheated truck. Overheated trucks is an all too often summer problem for diesel trucks. Don't let it happen to you. Go Wicked. Get your diesel truck service for less at Wicked Diesel in Bedford. Wicked Diesel is offering 20% off AC and cooling system repairs, plus oil change and tire rotation for 20% off. Go to wickeddieselva.com and print out the coupon. Go Wicked. Wicked Diesel, Bedford, Virginia.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speedqueen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Catch the Fast Lane weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So, no joke. I am not skilled or smart enough to know when the liners are going to pop up. So I did not strategically plan for the Bud Foster lineup, although he will appear on Foster and Friends tomorrow, as he does every Saturday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on the VTRN Sports app at 93.3 FM. I did not plan for that to arise and play right before the introduction of our next guest, who is being responsible. We wanted to do a video stream with him, but he is down and maybe even operating a motor vehicle using Bluetooth, of course, from down in Charlotte or on his way back up towards Virginia. We do not want anyone to have to call Trost Law at 777-HURT or visit trostlaw.com. The great Evan Hughes, whose voice you heard just hours earlier today on the VTRN Sports app at 93.3 FM, your home for the Virginia Tech Hokies, baseball, basketball, and football. Evan, great to be speaking with you. We are glad to finally connect with you. First of all, I apologize. It has taken us a long time to get linked up, but I will then again say our show often gets delayed and we have to do scheduling gymnastics because we have so many thrilling and exciting Virginia Tech baseball games that we are pleased to bring our audience.
No, we definitely do. First of all, Ed, great to be with you again. And for our listeners on VTRN Sports here on this Friday afternoon, I hope they're not sick of me at this point. It's been a lot of me, especially the last couple of weeks with Tech baseball. But, no, great to be back with you. It's an exciting time of the year. Obviously not the result the Hokies wanted earlier today, but they're still playing great baseball. And I'm so glad that the Lynchburg and surrounding communities have been able to hear what's been a really fun second half of the season for Hokie baseball.
So we'll get to the bigger picture stuff in just a moment with Evan Hughes, who is with us here in the Fast Lane and using Bluetooth so that he can keep both hands on the wheel and no one has to call Trost Law at 777-HURT because we advocate that type of responsible driving and we don't want Evan to have to lose his car and have to get a new one. We love Sheeler Motor Mile, but we don't want Evan to have to go over there to get a car just because of poor driving decisions. So we are advocates of all of that. Evan, first of all, the matchup itself today, you mentioned against North Carolina. I thought it was a long shot going into the bottom of the eighth inning, down 6-4, but was the ultimate decisive play when the ball's hit off the top of the wall. And it was a great relay play from Virginia Tech, but the Carolina runner had the presence of mind, his name escapes me, but he had the presence of mind to tag the plate before the catcher could apply the tag, which would have gotten maybe Virginia Tech out of that jam. And instead, it kept it alive. And ultimately, that seemed like it was the final blow for the Hokies.
Yeah, it was. To your point, it was a great relay, and I tell you, I think it goes to show how John Sheff has continued to say Ethan Ball's defense has continued to really improve, in addition to obviously his great offense. He put a great throw on that as the relay man from shallow right to the plate. Cook just missed. the foot of, I believe it was French who dove in at the plate. But and then, it's 7-4 at that point. They hit a 2-out, 2-run home run, making Winslow. I think, Ed, at the end of the day, you're playing the number 2 team in the country today. I thought Virginia Tech traded some real big punches with North Carolina. You go down 2-0, you come back, you hit back-to-back home runs off of an all-ACC first-team arm, and Jason DeCaro knock him out before even 4 innings. And then you see, one of the best relievers in the country. So I think all in all for the Hokies, to me, the big takeaway is you got to play a darn near perfect game to beat, UNC, the defending tournament champs, who's won 3 of the last 6. And to me, the big thing is that UNC scored 8 of its 10 runs with 2 outs. Virginia Tech had some opportunities in 2-strike and 2-out situations and just lacked that put-away pitch. But I thought Griffin Stig was gritty in the start. How about Ethan Grimm? And, I don't know if you were listening on Wednesday. He started that game, didn't record it out. He comes in and gives over 3 innings of relief, 1 run. I thought there were a lot of really good takeaways as Tech went up against one of the best pitching teams in the country in UNC.
Do people underestimate, and we'll get to the Wednesday and today and the tournament resume stuff with Virginia Tech baseball in just a moment as Evan Hughes is with us in the fast lane. Do people underestimate how hard it is to bounce back a day or two after in postseason play after what Virginia Tech went through on Wednesday, where you win a thriller, but a 17-10 game is very taxing on a pitching staff. And as the game in the high leverage moments mount against a better team and with that type of a tight turnaround, does that really tax a pitching staff? And was that a factor for Virginia Tech today?
Yeah, I think it was a huge thing, Ed. They had the off day yesterday because it's interesting how the AC tournament is set up. They split the quarterfinals into 2 days. So the 2 games on the top half of the bracket played yesterday, the 2 games on the bottom half of the bracket played today. And I asked John Shepp about that during our pregame interview today, especially taking a look at the bullpen. You throw Preston Crowell on 1 day's rest. I don't think it had as big of an impact as it would have been if you had played that game Wednesday, Thursday. But I think it's more so you see when you get a double bye like North Carolina, the way that tournament is formatted, if you're a top 4 seed, all you got to do is win 3 games and it's like a normal weekend series. And UNC having, its fresh rotation and bullpen ready, I think that's more so where you see the difference is you're getting their best first punch of the tournament. And for Virginia Tech, to your point, you play a 4-hour and 8-minute game on Wednesday. You use some of your top relievers. But for Ethan Grimm, who got off to that tough start without recording it out, clearly he was chomping at the bit to get back on the mound, and he clearly, delivered today for Virginia Tech and really pieced that game together, gave them a chance down the stretch late.
Now we can look at resume stuff with Evan Hughes of TechSideline.com. Evan, first of all, how much was Wednesday really the crux point of Virginia Tech solidifying their resume? It wasn't pretty if you like pitching, and it had a football score of 17-10. But the fact that you beat that Notre Dame team as hot as they were, they're not as big. Then it gave you the margin today that as long as you came in and you hung tough with Carolina, you'd have to feel nothing guaranteed, but fairly good about your tournament outlook when the brackets come out in a couple days.
No question. Ed, I'll be honest with you. When Virginia Tech beat Clemson last week to clinch the series over the Tigers and win their 4th consecutive ACC series, I thought that was the moment that solidified things for Virginia Tech because in years past, if you go 15-15 in the ACC or better, more times than not, as long as your RPI and strength of schedule is in a good spot, you're going to get in when you play in as good a league as the ACC. But when Virginia Tech lost on Saturday to Clemson, the RPI inexplicably fell from 38 to 48 out of the blink of an eye. Top 40 is pretty good. And then at 48, you're like, gosh, that was a big blow. So I thought Virginia Tech was feeling good going into the AC tournament. I'll tell you what helped is that North Carolina State, who finished 14-16 in the ACC, Hokies 15-15, NC State lost 21-10 to the 16-seed Duke in the opening round. They were more so on the bubble, if you will, than Virginia Tech, who has been in the tournament picture by a lot of outlets. So I thought NC State losing did Virginia Tech another favor because they're the team in the league that has all the attention on them on the bubble. And to your point, I think combine that with the decisive win against Notre Dame, I don't have any doubt in my mind, personally. I'm not a bracketologist. I'm not in the prediction business, but I think Virginia Tech should feel really good going into selection Monday in a couple days.
Evan, I will add this as well. And you know brackets in baseball way better than I do. But I am of the belief that how you perform over the second half of the season should factor in. Teams should be getting better over the course of the season, not leaking oil. How much does that play into the committee's mind? And should that be a benefit for a Virginia Tech team that has clearly played their best baseball over the second half of the year?
Without a doubt. And Ed, for this Tech team, since the 2022 team that hosted a regional, hosted a super, won the ACC regular season title, due to a lot of factors, including injuries, this Tech team has gotten off the hot starts in 23, 24, and 25, and then really cooled off in late April and early May. Virginia Tech, as I mentioned, they've won 4 straight ACC series. They have some really quality wins like at Georgia Tech and at Virginia. They played a competitive midweek schedule with Liberty down the stretch, and they're passing the eye test, and I think that was evident today. To play a 43-win UNC team and go into the bottom of the 8th there with that as a 6-4 game, I mean, it was a really good baseball game. Virginia Tech was right there, and ultimately Carolina had 1 or 2 more swings. So I think that Virginia Tech, playing right there with one of the best teams in America, to your point, like today, it just solidifies the fact this Tech team that's won 14 of its last 20 games, they're playing some of their best baseball right now. They're peaking at the right time. And not only are they getting contributions from the normal stars like your Brett Renfroes, Henry Cook, Ethan Ball, like look at Logan Eisenrich and what he's doing as of late. Like they're getting contributions from other guys, the Pete Daniels, the Sam Gates of the world in their first season that are playing their most comfortable and relaxed baseball of the year with Virginia Tech. So I think the Hokies are at a really good spot, both on paper, but also where they stand going into a regional. I'm really excited to see where they go, Ed, because there's a lot of intriguing scenarios that could play itself out, but you never know where the committee will put you.
What value is there when you have a starter like Brett Renfroe, who, you need more out of that in a pitching staff if you want to win a regional and certainly a super regional. But when you've got someone of his caliber, does that say to the selection committee, all right, this team can at least come in there and compete and give themselves a chance to make this more worthy of being selected into the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, pitching it matters at this point of the year. Virginia Tech has it. They've always had the nickname the Hammer and Hokies. That's why that's how I like to refer to them on air. But as of late, they've been the Hurland Hokies, Ed, and that starts with Brett Renfroe. What he's done over the last month, a guy who started over 40 career games in 3 years at Virginia Tech, he's pitching his best baseball in a Tech uniform. And when they needed him to deliver in a series against Clemson that really mattered for the NCAA tournament picture, for him to go 7 1/3 was huge. But I think it's more than that, Ed. I mean, Griffin Stigg, who was gritty, is the word I'd use today in the start. That guy was drafted in the 18th round last year by the Mariners, turned them down. I call him the 1B to the 1A of Renfroe. That's a strong 1-2 punch. And then here comes Logan Eisenrich, the sophomore, who has really started some strong games as of late. But, he comes in relief of Ethan Grimm on Wednesday, 3-0 game, runners on first and second, no outs, and he gives you 4+ innings of relief over 70 pitches. He struck out 9 last week against Clemson. He's pitching his best. And then you look at the bullpen, the likes of Preston Crowell, and you get Madden Clement back. You've got Yeagish. This is the most depth from a Virginia Tech bullpen I can remember in my time covering. I think it's more depth than even the 22 teams. So the pitching is in a really good place. And the key, Ed, too, and John Sheff would tell you, no major injuries. That has been really big for this Tech staff.
Evan Hughes, he's at Evan K. Hughes on Twitter and Instagram, and you hear him on Virginia Tech baseball so regularly on the VTRN Sports app. Evan, we'll wrap it up on this. We're not going to ask you to pick regional activity because we're not quite sure how that's going to transpire. Realistically, when the bracket comes out in a couple of days, are you thinking 2/3 seed for Virginia Tech, which would essentially mean, they're playing the same caliber team they would. It's just a matter of whether you're the quote home team in quote or the quote road team in quote at a neutral site?
I think they're probably going to be a 3 seed would be my guess. Keep an eye on the updated RPI that comes out tomorrow. Playing North Carolina, a top 5 RPI should jump them back into the high 30s, which is good. I think for a 2 seed, Tech probably needed to make a run to at least the ACC championship game. So I think they will be a 3 seed. And the 2 regionals I've seen, I follow a lot of D1 baseball stuff. Keep your eye out on if West Virginia hosts a regional. Could there be a Hokie trip, a trip for Tech baseball to go to Morgantown and the Black Diamond Trophy? That would be intriguing if the NCAA sent Virginia Tech to West Virginia. The Mountaineers have had a great year in the Big 12. They could host a regional. The other one that I've seen is College Station in Texas, which would be interesting because the Hokies played Texas A&M earlier this year at Globe Life Field. But who knows? You never know what the committee has in mind, and a lot can play out over the next couple of days as conference champions are crowned in tournaments.
Evan, thank you for joining us today in the Fast Lane. We send prayers for you on a smooth trip back to Blacksburg and look forward to hearing you, even if you preempt the Fast Lane, of which many of our listeners will be glad to hear just you as opposed to you and me together.
Absolutely. Ed, just quickly, I want to thank you and Trey and everybody at VTRN Sports for just being such great people to work with, and we're so lucky to have you all as a affiliate of the Virginia Tech Sports Network, but especially to you for airing women's basketball and baseball, expanding the coverage. Thanks for what you do. It's an honor to be on these airwaves and talking with your listeners, and let's do this again soon after a Hokie regional win. How about that?
Indeed. Evan Hughes with us here in the Fast Lane. Evan, we'll talk soon, and we look forward to hearing you again.
Thanks so much, Ed. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Our pleasure. Evan Hughes with us here in the Fast Lane. Another baseball nugget, by the way. Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com, of course, generous enough to fill us in on this, but Lynchburg Baseball dropped the Super Regional opener to follow this, if you will. East Texas Baptist, 8-2. Tyler Kaltrider got dinged up pretty bad. 6 runs, 5 earned, 10 hits, and a couple of walks. Control's decent, but that team really hit him very well. Hornets are going to need to win twice now when the series resumes tomorrow, depending on how the weather unfolds, and it's at Liberty Baseball Stadium. So there's a lot of it's going to take a lot for games not to take place, but never say never on the field turf over at Liberty University. By the way, hats up to the Flames for making that available for the Super Regional for the University of Lynchburg baseball. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, maybe a couple nuggets on that. Somebody familiar with the ODAC and high school sports as well, Bob Alvis, Sports Night Podcast, to wrap up the Fast Lane next on the VTRN Sports app and Ask That Smart Speaker, open VTRN Sports.
If you need a new or pre-owned vehicle, but prior credit issues have you worried, see Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today. We can help. Bad credit, no credit, first-time buyer, or even if you just want to change what you're driving now, we're here to get you approved. See us now and start driving the new car or truck you deserve. When it comes to financing, go with Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We're here to help. Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. 1750 Independence Boulevard in Bedford. MagicCityBedford.com.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned on sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Hi, I'm Al Billingsley, a board member with CASA of Central Virginia. Children who've experienced abuse or neglect often enter foster care feeling scared, confused, and alone. That's where CASA volunteers step in. We stand behind these children to make sure that their voices are heard in court. CASA is looking for caring adults from our community to serve as volunteer advocates. And as a man, I can tell you we're especially in need more men to step up for these kids. If you're ready to make a difference, learn more at cvcasa.org.
Summer is a time for sunshine and growth, but even in life's brighter moments, things can still feel overwhelming. At Central Virginia Counseling, we provide professional support when you need it most. This summer, prioritize your well-being. Our experienced counselors are here to help you build resilience and move forward with confidence. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com to get started. Central Virginia Counseling, where courage meets compassion.
What moves you? Find what moves you at Move-A-Palooza, presented by Fleet Feet Roanoke. All day, Saturday, June 20th at Green Hill Park in Salem. Cultivate your wellness hub from Virginia's premier movement experts. Experience family-friendly events to introduce you to movement and community, giving you the emotional, physical, and mental community you need with continued access to the region's premier movement experts. Find what moves you at Move-A-Palooza. presented by Fleet Feet Roanoke. All day Saturday, June 20th at Green Hill Park in Salem.
Hey guys, this is Chad Hassan with ASeaofRed.com. ASeaofRed.com is the #1 trusted independent news source for Flames sports. You can get access to premium content such as the Rumor Mill by becoming an ASeaofRed.com club member for only $84 a year. If you're a diehard Liberty Flames fan, want all the inside scoop along with coverage of recruiting and all the major sporting events over at LU, visit ASeaofRed.com. Go Flames.
Hey, this is Virginia Tech analyst and former Hokies tight end Mike Burnham. You're listening to the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
I mean, the majority of the theme of the last 24 hours and 7 minutes since at 5:40 p.m. yesterday during the Fast Lane, we learned of the tragic passing of Kyle Busch. That's been the focal point of our discussion. Not the only point, but, we still acknowledge that. And there's a level of shock that anybody in sports, particularly those of us who have covered NASCAR, and we certainly have here at VTR in Sports Lynchburg, there's a level of that comes with it. There's no easy way, again, to transition from that, but somebody who has his opinions on that and everything in the world of sports is Bob Alvis, who covers high school and local sports extremely dutifully and well for the Sports Buffet podcast, is with us in the Fast Lane. Bob, first of all, we extend our best to you, and we don't say this lightly, but it's always good to be able to see you and connect with you every time we're blessed to have that opportunity.
Kyle Busch, former WWE 24/7 champion.
Sure thing, right? That's how you know of him.
Well, pro wrestling fans can at least take a little bit of solace in knowing Kyle Busch, but definitely great on the track. But hey, let's get to some happier news, maybe.
Yeah, I guess relatively speaking, although it's not happy what happened to the Lynchburg baseball team, it's happy they made it to another super regional. That's the 4th consecutive year they've pulled that off, but they got dinged up pretty big today. 8-2 defeat against East Texas Baptist over at Liberty Baseball Stadium, where the field turf makes it a lot easier to play than it would anywhere else. Also, at City Stadium, the Howlers are in town. Get your tickets now, by the way, at InsaneRadioDeals.com with the $10 food voucher. But for Liberty or for Lynchburg, just the reality of getting back here is great. How much does it also say that, when you get to this level, it becomes a lot harder to get over the hump because teams are fairly even at the Division III level in terms of talent?
Yeah, you're down to, I want to say, the final 8 now, so you really got to be playing your best baseball. I know that every school that's going, whether it's Lynchburg baseball head coach Travis Beasley, to whether it's Virginia Wesleyan softball, Brandon Elliott head coach, you're always looking for playing our best time in the NCAA tournament, or as high schools is wrapping up, playing our best ball as we get into regionals tournaments, because everybody's goal is to be in a state tournament or to be in a Final Four in the NCAA world. So I definitely think you want to be playing your best ball, and I think you absolutely want to be able to play ball. And congratulations that Lynchburg could actually play ball today, because some people probably can't because the field's wet here and there, but thank goodness we don't have any high school going today around here, because it's not good enough to play.
No, for most, it's not, because they don't have the field turf that Liberty has. First of all, Liberty gets dinged in a lot of ways. Some of it in the past has been justified, but Ian McCall and his staff, and I've known Ian for a while, so there's a level of bias to this, but they're very accommodating when it comes to the community using their facilities over there. Is that the reputation that you've gathered as well?
Well, I'll be going over there tomorrow for a high school graduation. And by the way, a lot of graduates are coming up. You would be a fool if you haven't gotten a gift for your graduate or for a graduate friend. InsaneRadioDeals.com is the place to go to get a graduation gift, because, hey, what a better time than to go see the Howlers play and get a food voucher.
That I don't even know what to say. Bob Alvis is doing our work for us here in the Fast Lane. We might have to get him some of those gift certificates to downtown Cairo or Tacos Los Amigos so he can enjoy great food of different ethnic varieties. Or if he prefers some raw seafood, raw oysters and seafood, 801 Raw Bar on Rivermont Avenue in Lynchburg might be more of his cup of tea. Bob, from that to other sports news and nuggets that have gone on, one of which has been, it's fascinating. They finally put the brick up for Eddie Orneska's 200th win. He achieved that last year, but they finally put it up this year at EC Glass. And first of all, the legacy that he's built over there has been pretty impressive. What does it say, though, about the fact that they've had continual success And now that JF has gotten themselves to the point where they have become a legitimate challenger to them, all of a sudden that has become one of the more underrated. I know JF and Glass in general, but the JF Glass lacrosse rivalry has quietly become one of the more intense rivalries in the area, in part because of continued success from Eddie Renoska, but also Glass building themselves, or JF building themselves into a legitimate challenger to Glass.
Yeah, it's not like, we've got a rivalry to where somebody's 17-0, because that doesn't make a rivalry. And if you've never been to a lacrosse match, it's a different breed when you see boys lacrosse, because it's kind of like football with pads to a degree. Maybe mix football, hockey, and soccer all together. But when you look at it, out of public schools in the area, and I'm doing a quick count in my head, I want to say EC Glass and JF in terms of the Lynchburg area, that's it. I mean, you've got VES, who's got a lacrosse program. I think New Covenant's got a lacrosse program, but you don't have a lot of lacrosse that you can play in public schools. Now, when you get Salem and you get Rockbridge, you've got other teams in the area. But for Lynchburg, EC Glass and JF is that thing. And it's been a very good rivalry. I think you've got to tip your hat to Eddie at EC Glass for what he's done. You've got to tip your hat to Don Preston for what he's done in a short time at JF. They will match up in the regional tournament next week at Forest. It should be an electric atmosphere. And for that regional semifinal game, or the regional quarterfinal, Region 4 is a little bit different. 4A is a little bit different, but we can talk about that in a minute. You've got to win that game. No questions asked.
It's a totally different dynamic. What do you make of that? So often you get to a regional final and you're guaranteed a spot in the States. How much of that is just the fact that lacrosse, it has grown as a sport, but it's not on the same level in terms of just the volume of schools in the region and in the Commonwealth of Virginia that play it. So the amount of berths that are available for a state appearance are just fewer.
Lacrosse is a weird bracket because it's not like a baseball or a softball, to where what they'll do for 4A in baseball and softball is they've broken it up into South and North. So your JFs, your UC Glass, and your Amherst are on one side. Your Charlottesvilles, your Hanleys, your so forth are on the other side. So you basically have to win the South Championship to play the North Champion, and that's your regional final. So then both teams go to the state. Lacrosse is a little quirky because not everybody has lacrosse. So you really got to, I just like to play the Al Davis, just win, baby. Because if you just keep winning, nothing bad can happen. Nobody is going to tell you, go home, you can't play anymore if you continue to win.
Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast is stopping by with us in the Fast Lane. He's got his Taking a Walk series, by the way, on the podcast, which is a great listen. They go in depth. There are a lot of the stories that are brought up. Bob, people think so often in terms of softball and baseball of what's going on in the Seminole District. Appomattox, once again, perfect Dogwood campaign. They had a state title run last year, and they're backing it up this year. Are we poised for another year where Appomattox is once again a team to beat on the diamonds in local sports?
You definitely could be. I mean, Appomattox is a very good team. I think maybe one thing that hurts is the Dogwood top to bottom is maybe not as strong as you would like it. A lot of people will always say about the Seminole, if you can get out of the Seminole, you beat everybody else up, but then it kind of gets easier once you get into region play because they're not playing the Seminole schedule. I agree with that to a point, but at the end of the day, winning is great too, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, how much are you being tested in your district schedule? That might be the only thing that hurts Appomattox, but they've got good things going down there in Raider country all over the place. And I think Appomattox will be just fine. And they definitely, I think, will compete at the state level. No questions asked.
Is it a little bit easier for Appomattox softball, just in the sense that they've got the rivalry with Rustburg, and we know about the Bingham family and their pitching tree from Rustburg, but also the Seminole District maybe is deeper in softball, as good as it's been in baseball, maybe even deeper in softball. So you've got some local teams where you can play up in that sport, whereas, in baseball, it may be a little bit more of a challenge, and that's where it's felt in postseason play.
I think right now softball is deeper in the Lynchburg area. I think baseball is a little bit down in the Lynchburg area as a whole, because I was talking to a few people and I said, when you watch a baseball game right now, there's not one guy on each team that you're afraid that can put the ball over the fence. Maybe they're going to put it in play, which is great. But, and I'm not saying you don't have home runs here and there, but you don't have that Wes Clark when he played at LCA. I mean, Wes Clark hit one at JF that I still don't know if it's landed because it went a long, long way. I don't think you have that guy across the board. And, You've got a lot of good pitchers, but it's not to the depth it was. Softball, I think, is a sport to where you can play small ball a lot more than you can play with baseball. And I think Appomattox will be fine. They have been tested. William Campbell's another team. Once you get into the playoffs in 1A, even if you're seated low, the gap in talent from Lynchburg to other places, you can really see it once you get into the playoffs. So I think a lot of teams on the lower levels are going to be fine, to be honest with you.
Bob Alvis, the Sports Buffet podcast with us in the Fast Lane. Bob, we're wrapping up on a different one. I'm sure plenty of coaches do this. I also know it's easier in sports where there's just fewer numbers of it. Matt Klein put some photos out there of he and some of the seniors from the LCA boys basketball team enjoying a lunch today at a restaurant that does not advertise with InsaneRadioDeals.com. So we will not mention that restaurant's name. JJ's learning how petulant I can be, by the way, in the Fast Lane. He's getting a crash course on that. But that type of thing, and other coaches do that in sports. How much can you see that as being a staple? And maybe what you do away from the competition, whether it's practice or games, the ability to cultivate those bonds is shown by a lot of the coaches in the area who have developed longer legacies.
It's not petulant. It's smart, by the way. But I don't know. I think I've talked with JT Cruz about this. I have not named my interview series, so thank you for taking a walk. That might be my next. Might be the title. So go ahead.
All royalties can be paid in InsaneRadioDeals.com purchases.
Well, don't count on that being a big sum of money. But anyway, so I talked about it with a few coaches, and I think building a relational bond with your teammates or with your guys that play for you is really important. Now, is that showing up to their games? Is that knowing the type of music they listen to? I think you have to determine it with each kid. How can you meet them? But I think a team dinner or a team lunch for your seniors, which is not unheard of with basketball coaches, I think it's just a good way to say thank you. And I love you guys, and you're always welcome back here, because I think a lot of times once Pomp and Circumstance, I call it the Macho Man Randy Savage music, hits tomorrow, and you've walked across the stage, you've gotten your diploma, whether it's tomorrow or next week, like it is for Campbell County, LCA, and Bedford County tomorrow. It's almost like, what do you do after that? I mean, you're going to either go to college or go to the workforce, but I can stop by. But am I a weirdo if I stop by my team's place? I don't think you're that, but I think you always want to feel welcome, if it makes sense.
Bob Ellis, the Sports Buffet podcast. That is how we wrap things up today in the Fast Lane. Bob, thank you for making time for us. You timed it out perfectly, as you always do, and we look forward to chatting again.
Let's take a walk soon.
We will. Bob Alvis with us here in the Fast Lane to wrap it up today. Now on to Freddie and Harry with the fill-in, already in progress, and then NBA Game 3, OKC at San Antonio tonight. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WV.